now we are moving to the next very interesting session, which is a panel discussion. And in the panel discussion, we'll be talking about water as a as an in, water as a key enabler for the circular water economy, uh, recovery, recycling, and reuse. And there are the three key panelists whom we'll be talking. One is the Omar Kareem. Let me introduce Omar Kareem. And Omar Kareem is working as a water management specialist at FAO. We have the other panelist is Madam Simi Kamal. I think everyone in Pakistan knows about Simi. She has done an enormous work. In Pakistan in transforming the water sector, and then has a huge contribution towards even as at the ISAR Foundation platform, as well as advisor for the Panjwani ISAR Water Institute, and he's also serving as a NIMI board member. So welcome Simi again for this session. And the third is the keynote speaker is Professor Mahmood Ahmed. He's a professor of practice at the Water Institute, Water Informatic Institutes at the LUMS, Lahore University of Management Sciences. My first question is to Madam Simi Kamal on the national water policy. And so let me let this, yeah. The Pakistan National Water Policy has a 33 objectives, and National Water Policy mentioned about that the wastewater reuse, but I didn't find it clearly that the priority, what will be our target, how we will be able to enhance that the wastewater reuse.
डॉक्टर मोहसिन हफीज़ ने प्रोग्राम के दूसरे हिस्से का आगाज़ स्पीकर्स और नुमाइंदा अरकान के खुश आमदीद करके कहा। फ्रेश वाटर WWF पाकिस्तान ने सबसे पहले प्रेजेंटेशन दी, जिसका उन्वान था आबी ज़खायर में इजाफा और इसकी तरक्की को बरकरार रखने पर गौर किया गया। पाकिस्तान के शहरी इलाकों में पानी की तलब बहुत ज़्यादा है। पाकिस्तान के शहरों में महज 41% आबादी को महफूज पीने के पानी तक रसाई हासिल है, जबकि देहाती इलाकों में सूरत हाल बदतर है, जहां सिर्फ 32% आबादी को ताज़ा पानी तक रसाई हासिल है। निफ्स से ज़्यादा शहरी आबादी को पीने के साफ पानी तक आसान रसाई हासिल नहीं। कितना पानी साफ और इस्तेमाल के काबिल बनाया जाता है, माहौलियाती तब्दीली की वजह से शहरी सैलाब आजकल एक फैशन बन गया है। इसके बाद उन्होंने आलूदा पानी के मसाइल पर रोशनी डाली, जिससे शहरी गंदा पानी, ज़राई बहाव में शामिल कीमियाई अद्वियात और सनतों से खारिज हुआ फुजला शामिल है। इसके अलावा उन्होंने आबी आलूदगी के हवाले से कुछ फौरी हल तजवीज़ किए, जिनमें इस्तेमाल शुदा गंदे पानी को इस्तेमाल के काबिल बनाने के प्लांट्स, ज़राई बहाव में कमी के लिए स्प्रे के छिड़काव का तरीका, किसानों के लिए आगाही प्रोग्राम जैसे BCI सनती फुजला का बेहतर इंतजाम, सनतों में RECP तरीक़ेकार को लाजिम करार देना, पानी के म्यार को बेहतर बनाना, घरेलू ज़रई और सनती सतह पर पानी को महफूज तरीक़ेकार, बारिश के पानी की कटाई और सैलाबी पानी के लिए नाले बनाना।
Yes, Pakistan's water policy does have 33 goals, and I believe that any policy with so many goals is bound to falter, because there should be fewer objectives which should have clearly defined actions which can be done. We at ISAR Foundation have helped out or have tried to help out the government of Pakistan by converting those objectives into, and whatever else was in there, into a framework for action, and also defining who should do what. I don't know to what extent that has been made part of the way that the policy is going to be implemented. Now, recycling water, that is one of the most difficult things to do anywhere in the world. And in Pakistan, it is particularly difficult because people have these notions of purity and taharat, which is different from just having clean water. In my house, for example, I have now installed a water recycling system that takes the tanker water and the water that comes in the pipe and puts it through so many different systems, and we just push a button and we get drinking water. Okay? It took me a long time to convince people in my house and my helpers and people around me that it's okay to drink this water. That is a very, very big barrier that we have to cross. The mental barrier that recycled water is okay for all kinds of uses. The other aspect that we have to ensure is tackled, that you don't need absolutely pure sweet water for all uses. You can have different qualities of water for different uses. I assume you agree with me so far, Umar?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Now, to break these mental barriers, we have to develop and mount the kind of campaign that people will not help but listen, and they would be persuaded gently and firmly to change their minds. This requires messaging, this requires advertising, it requires demonstration, it requires people in higher places to discard these bottled water that you see everywhere and to openly tell people that they are drinking recycled water. And in order to do that, there are many different attempts being made globally and in Pakistan, but I think they aren't enough. Nonetheless, one of the attempts that I am associated with is setting up the Panjwani Hisar Water Institute at NED University. One of the main things that it will do is water remediation. So, the samples that are brought in and the kind of water that come in for testing at the lab, we then have another attached lab, the Water Ecology and Remediation Lab, that would then seek positively to find the way the pollutants could be taken out and how that water could be reused. So, we have the technology, we have people who want to do these things, we have at least some institutions. Now we have to work on changing the mindsets of people. Thank you.
Just now moving to the Omar Cream, sir, that for the wastewater, which is untreated wastewater, that has been used a lot in a peri-urban environment for growing vegetables. And that has all kind of the associated problems, the pathogens and everything, and we are just in a cycle of that one, where we are using the untreated wastewater for growing vegetables, and that has a huge contamination, and then that's impacting the human health, even that the vegetable which we are consuming it, and then that goes into the cycle into that one, that the animals who are drinking even for fodder, that's also that their meat is polluted. What are your thoughts on that one? I mean, how we could do even as an as an engineer, and then working as a water management specialist. So what are the things, especially, what are your experience based in Karachi area, what we could do, how we could change that the mindset, and especially educate to the people who are using that the untreated wastewater for that one, considering that one the farmers are not they are only worrying about the income, but as a society we need to look after ourselves and also educate them. That will be one of that one. So I want to have a question from you. Thank you.
डॉक्टर मोहसिन ने प्रेजेंटेशन के इख्तिताम पर एक सवाल का जवाब देते हुए बताया कि जितने ज़्यादा आबी बुखारात हवा में जाएंगे इतने ही ज़्यादा तूफ़ान आने के खदशात बढ़ेंगे। इसलिए माहौलियाती तब्दीली और कुदरती आफात का आपस में बहुत गहरा ताल्लुक़ है। एक और सवाल का जवाब देते हुए उन्होंने कहा कि आबपाशी के निज़ाम को मौसमियाती फसल लगाकर बेहतर बनाया जा सकता है और पुरानी फसल का कुछ हिस्सा ज़रई ज़मीन पर छोड़ देने से ज़मीन न रहेगी और पानी का इस्तेमाल कम होगा।
Thank you, Mohsin Sahab. Your question takes me back to my village. I was a kid then, and the drainage system of my village was constructed by Public Health Department. It was 1986 or 87, I think. I still remember how they spread the net of drains and they collected all the sewerage water, and then their water was taken to a sump. A sump was constructed where it was left there to decompose for some time, and then there was different stages, and afterwards some of the farmer used to buy that water for agriculture. Those were the good old days. I think there were impurities were not so high, industrial waste was not mixing with the domestic waste, and it was reusable by a simple process of decomposition. But now I think things are very difficult but not impossible. We can still do it in big cities like Karachi and area. Let me give you example of wild west of America. They are under drought conditions since last 20 years and they are coping with it. How are they coping? They are basically treating their water and reusing it. That is how they are doing it. I have met some people, I have been there on the course, and I have met some people, some companies, and they say that we don't bring in any specialized machinery. We just built a human resource, we trained them, because this kind of treatment needs consistent quality checks at each and every level, at domestic level, at industrial level, and then procedures are defined that how they are going to treat each kind of impurity. So I dream of it. It can be a dream of it. Actually, we have to change our attitude. The report, almost everyone referred the World Bank report on circular economy. There is a word written, finite resource. So water is a finite resource. We know we are working in the field of water resources management, and everybody knows that it's a finite resource. But our attitude to behave with that water or deal with that water is like it is an infinite resource. So we are just grabbing our share of water through tankers or through any source or everything, and then we are just disposing it off and wasting it in the sea or in the freshwater resources and everything.
Now that brings to, thank you very much for your time. Now that brings to the Professor Mahmood. Professor Mahmood sir, you have worked extensively in the Middle East region. And could you please share what are the global practices in the recycling the wastewater and especially for the agriculture sector? And how Pakistan could learn from these practices and adopt it for the agriculture sector?
Thank you very much for inviting me in this very important meeting, and I heard very eminent speakers. Yes, I will go back to my region, and I'll start with the story that 3 years ago I went back to Morocco. There was a conference on water. That was after like 15, 20 years. So for me, the debate there was really totally changed in terms of the topics they were talking about, and they really, so one of the topic was wastewater, drainage, and these kind of things. Whereas in Pakistan, I mean, I think still we are really caught in this trying to see which kind of efficiency and all. I mean, it's still the same story. Now to really two big success stories in Middle East in terms of wastewater use. One is Jordan and the other is Israel.
And now will be, I mean, we are on time. I will be moving to the next segment, which is the most interesting one, is about question and answering from the audience. If there are any questions. The question is if small units could be developed to install in the apartment complexes or large houses which can recycle their wastewater in Karachi.
Yes,
Is
sure.
there available?
Yes, Madam Simi has already explained. She has done this in her house, and it is a success story. So it can be done, and it can be done, and it is very needed thing nowadays that we need to do this. So not only the small units or equipments, but small structural changes can also help us, like separating the different kind of waste coming, toilet waste or sink waste or car wash waste, or everything can be used or for other things.
इख्तिताम में सुहेल साहब ने चंद तजावीज़ दी। कौमी आबी पॉलिसी के सेक्शन 13 में शहरी पानी के इंतज़ाम और इसके महफूज तसव्वुर पर जोर दिया गया। इसके अलावा इसमें घरेलू और कुदरती तरीके से आबी ज़खायर में इजाफे की हौसला अफजाई की गई। उन्होंने कहा कि बारिश का पानी और आबी ज़खायर के इंतज़ाम को बेहतर बनाया जा सकता है। आबी वसाइल बेहतरी के हवाले से नुमाया कामयाबी की मिसाल हैं। हुकूमती और निजी शराकत दारी का फ़रोग़ देना चाहिए।